Welcome back to Tech Week in Review. Okay, so looking back at this last week,
Hey.
October 20th to the 26th, it really felt like, well, like a tale of two tech worlds colliding.
It really did. On one side, you had these fundamental systems we all depend on just buckling, showing real cracks.
Yeah, spectacularly seizing up is one way to put it. And then on the other hand, we saw these incredibly smart, almost unsettlingly capable new AI tools being rolled out.
Exactly. That contrast was, I think, the defining tension of the week. You look at the sources and you see this deep fragility in the centralized stuff we lean on.
Right.
But then there's this intense, almost frantic energy around the AI built on top of it, and this huge debate about who's actually in control.
So our job today, as always, is to kind of cut through that chaos for you, pull out the core insights, the knowledge nuggets from all these announcements, and frankly, the disruptions.
Yep.
We've broken it down to three main areas. First, we really need to dig into that systemic failure, the dependency spotlighted by the AWS outage, and the big Tesla recall.
That foundation shaking.
Exactly. Then second, we'll look at what feels like the next generation of AI products arriving, things that really understand context. We're talking Anthropic's Claude update, OpenAI's new browser concept, and Samsung's XR headset.
The intelligence layer getting smarter.
And finally, we can't ignore the pushback. The big, urgent questions about controlled digital surveillance getting more pervasive, protecting your identity online, and this really serious call regarding artificial superintelligence.
You really have to grasp how shaky that foundation is before you look at the shiny new things being built on it. Let's start with AWS, US East 1. Because, I mean, when that region hiccups.
The whole world feels it, doesn't it? It's amazing how that one spot, Northern Virginia, US East 1, is basically the internet's nerve center.
It really is.
And the initial reports, the chatter was, oh, it's DNS, simple DNS failure. But that wasn't the whole story, was it? What did the tech deep dive actually find?
No, the primary cause wasn't really about routing or name servers. It was more fundamental, a hardware timing issue deep inside the data center.
Hardware.
Yeah, AWS engineers explained it as a power synchronization error. Think about the main grid power, the backup generators. They have internal clocks to keep everything running smoothly together.
Okay.
Well, those clocks got out of sync badly. And when the system couldn't agree on the time, it essentially panicked. That triggered these cascading failures, taking down core services like DynamoDB.
Wow. And the cost of that panic, it's just mind-boggling. You hear stats like the Uptime Institute saying a big incident costs companies, what, $9,000 a minute?
Per minute, yeah.
And this hit Netflix, Disney+, Slack, Coinbase, Delta. I mean, even Amazon's own stuff like Alexa went down for hours. It's a massive, expensive lesson in just how dependent we've become.
It was a huge reality check. AWS controls, what, around a third of the global cloud market, something like that?
Yeah, 32 to 37%, depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
Supporting over 1.4 million businesses.
Exactly. So when a seemingly mundane failure, like a timing error in Virginia, happens, it ripples out globally. It becomes this multi-billion-dollar wake-up call about concentrating so much critical infrastructure in just a few physical places.
Yeah.
The risk just scales up massively.
And that idea, that risk at massive scale, it wasn't just in the cloud this week, was it? We saw a parallel in the physical world with the Tesla recall.
Yeah, absolutely connected thematically. A huge global recall. We're talking over 2.1 million cars, Model 3, Model Y, built between 2020 and 2023.
And this wasn't like an over-the-air software fix. This was hardware, a physical component failure.
Correct. The problem was traced to a faulty high-voltage power conversion component. Basically, the part that handles the electricity can just fail suddenly, leading to a complete loss of propulsion, no acceleration.
Scary stuff. But is this just, a standard manufacturing defect you expect sometimes?
Yeah.
Or does it say something more about the speed they're scaling at? Quality control under pressure.
I think it points directly to those pressures. Rapid scaling, intense focus on production speed, maybe quality control struggled to keep pace. When you push out millions of units over several years, all relying on the same critical component.
Right.
The moment that component proves faulty, the failure isn't isolated. It's systemic across that whole production run. It just reinforces that core idea. Whether it's a tiny timing chip in a data center or a power converter in a car, concentrating the design means concentrating the risk. Breakdowns are rarely small anymore.
Okay, so part one's lesson is fragility. The base layer is maybe wobblier than we like to think. So let's pivot to the software, the intelligence running on that base, because that's getting incredibly sophisticated. Starting with Anthropic and this major update to Claude.
Yeah, this wasn't just a tweak, it's a structural change. Claude now has persistent memory. It remembers things across different chat sessions.
So for me as a user, that means
Well,
I close the window, I come back tomorrow, and it still knows what we were talking about.
essentially, yes. Unlike most competitors where each session starts fresh, Claude aims to remember your preferences, the context of your work, ongoing projects, sort of indefinitely.
That sounds like a massive step towards making AI feel less like a tool and more like a digital colleague or assistant.
Yeah.
But how do they do that without just storing every single word I type?
Yeah.
Because that sounds like a privacy nightmare, not to mention a data storage problem.
That's where they claim their technical edge lies. They say they don't store the full, raw transcripts. Instead, Claude analyzes your interactions and abstracts the key information into what they call semantic clusters and contextual fragments.
Semantic clusters. Okay, unpack that a bit.
Think of it like it doesn't remember the exact sentences, but it remembers the core concepts, the topics we discuss, maybe my preferred writing style, the names of projects I'm working on. It stores these compressed, summarized insights.
Got it. So it gets the gist, the important context, without keeping the literal chat log.
Exactly. It allows for that deep personalization and continuity, they argue, while being more efficient and, crucially, preserving privacy. They're positioning Claude less as a Q&A bot and more as this contextual assistant you build a working relationship with. Trust and usability seem to be the goal, especially for business use.
Interesting. Meanwhile, OpenAI is taking perhaps an even more radical swing at how we interact with information online with ChatGPT Atlas, this new AI web browser concept starting in macOS. It seems to want to throw out the rulebook entirely.
It really does feel like a philosophical break from the web we've known for decades. No more tabs cluttering the screen, no search bar as the primary input, no bookmarks.
So how do you navigate? How do you find things?
It's all about dialogue, a continuous conversation. You don't really browse in the old sense. You talk to the web, or rather to Atlas about the web, and it synthesizes information for you.
And the feature that really jumps out is this agent mode. What can Atlas actually do on its own?
Agent mode is designed for complex, multi-step tasks online that usually need a human clicking around. The classic example they gave is planning dinner. You ask it, and it can apparently find recipes, then navigate over to, say, Instacart, figure out the ingredients, and actually place the grocery order for you.
Whoa. Okay, that's potentially very powerful, but also raises questions. How restricted is it?
They're emphasizing the limitations right now. They say it operates strictly within the browser tabs. It can't download and run external programs or access your local files. It's confined to automating actions within web pages.
So it's like a very smart macro for web tasks.
Kind of, but driven by natural language and context.
Yeah.
OpenAI is framing it very deliberately. Atlas is a knowledge companion, not just a search engine. The idea is that finding facts is becoming table stakes. The real value is an agent that can understand, synthesize, and act on that knowledge for you.
That conversational intelligence.
Yeah.
How does it translate into the physical or maybe the mixed reality? Samsung gave us a glimpse this week with their Galaxy XR headset reveal, built with Google on the Android XR platform.
Right. This is Samsung and Google teaming up to make a serious play in the high-end spatial computing space, clearly targeting Apple's Vision Pro, but with a different strategy.
How so? What's different?
Well, first off, physical design and comfort seem key. It's noticeably lighter, about 19.2 ounces versus the Vision Pro's 26.4. That makes a difference on your head.
Definitely. And the specs.
Pretty impressive. Dual micro OLED displays, packing around 29 million pixels combined. So very high resolution, sharp visuals.
But the really interesting part, tying back to our AI theme, is the integration with Google's Gemini AI. Right?
Absolutely. That seems to be the core of the user experience. They're using Gemini to make control feel intuitive, almost effortless. It combines eye tracking with voice commands in a really fluid way.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine you're looking at a virtual map displayed in the headset. You might glance at a specific landmark or restaurant icon, and then you just ask Gemini a question about it, like, what are their hours, or do they have outdoor seating? Because it tracks your gaze, the AI knows exactly what you're referring to without you having to point or click. It understands your visual context.
That sounds very natural, almost like Minority Report, but less frantic hand-waving.
Sort of, yeah. And then there's the price. They're launching it at $1,799.
Which is half the price of a Vision Pro.
Roughly half, yeah. Combined with building on the relatively open Android XR ecosystem, aiming to attract developers, the strategy seems clear. Make high-end XR more accessible, more comfortable, and deeply integrated with conversational AI. They're betting on broader adoption through ease of use and price.
Okay, so we have this foundation that's proven fragile, yet we're building these incredibly smart, context-aware interfaces on top of it. Which brings us, inevitably, to part 3, the control questions. As these powerful tools get woven deeper into our lives, the ethical debates, the regulatory needs, they just explode.
Yeah.
Starting with surveillance.
And you see the surveillance infrastructure consolidating almost in real time. Look at this new partnership between Amazon's Ring and Flock Safety.
Right. Flock Safety, they do the license plate readers and other AI-powered cameras you see in public spaces. What does this partnership actually enable?
It essentially makes it much easier for law enforcement, and we're talking about nearly 5,000 agencies already using Flock to request and access footage from private Ring doorbell cameras.
How? Through what mechanism?
It uses Ring's new community requests feature. It basically streamlines the process, replacing the older request for assistance tool. It connects that vast network of private residential Ring cameras more directly into Flock's existing public surveillance network.
And the privacy advocates like the ACLU, what's their main concern here?
Their argument, put simply, is that this isn't just about helping police solve crimes, it's actively building a dangerous nationwide mass surveillance infrastructure.
Because it merges public and private feeds.
Exactly. And Flock Safety already uses AI that can do more than read license plates. It analyzes footage to identify people based on descriptions, things like man in a blue shirt and cowboy hat. So the fear is, once your private doorbell footage can be easily pulled into that massive, searchable, AI-analyzed database, the line between your front porch security and pervasive state surveillance gets incredibly blurry, almost disappears.
On the flip side, we are seeing platforms trying to address some AI-related harms, at least within their own ecosystems. YouTube, for instance, is tackling deepfakes and creator identity.
Yeah, they've introduced something called AI-powered likeness detection. You can think of it like Content ID, but for faces.
Okay, so if someone makes a deepfake video using my face.
The system is designed to help you, as a creator, find those unauthorized, manipulated videos using your likeness and then request YouTube to take them down. Given how easy generative AI makes creating convincing deepfakes, it feels like a necessary defensive tool for creators trying to protect their identity and brand.
And it's not just about misuse. They also added something for user well-being, right? This shorts viewing timer.
Yeah, that's aimed at the user experience side. It's a feature designed to help counter that endless, sometimes mindless scrolling through short videos, what people call doom scrolling.
Does it work?
You can set a daily time limit for watching shorts. When you hit that limit, it pops up a reminder suggesting you take a break. It's a small nudge, but it's about giving users a little more agency, a conscious interruption to maybe foster healthier viewing habits. It shows platforms are at least acknowledging their role in shaping those habits.
Agency, or the potential loss of it.
Yeah.
That really brings us to the biggest control question that surfaced this week. This major push to actually prohibit the development of artificial superintelligence, ASI.
This was significant. A really heavyweight open letter signed by over 850 people. We're talking AI pioneers like Geoffrey Hinton, Yoshua Bengio, Nobel laureates, leading researchers.
And they're not just calling for regulation or caution. They're calling for an outright ban, a prohibition, on creating ASI, which they define as AI systems smarter than humans, across basically all cognitive abilities.
Exactly. A full stop.
That sounds almost sci-fi, but the people signing it are deeply serious. What specific dangers are they pointing to that warrant such a drastic measure, like a complete ban?
They articulate clear existential risks. Things like the potential for unprecedented mass unemployment if ASI can do most human jobs. The risk to civil liberties if such powerful intelligence is controlled by corporations or authoritarian states.
Okay.
And crucially, the alignment problem. This is a fundamental challenge. How do you guarantee that a machine vastly smarter than us, potentially capable of rewriting its own goals and code, will remain aligned with human values and beneficial to humanity? They argue we don't know how to solve this, and the stakes are too high to just hope for the best.
So they're proposing international treaties.
Yes, they're explicitly calling for international agreements, drawing parallels to treaties controlling nuclear weapons or chemical weapons, a global framework to prevent an ASI arms race.
But then you see Meta, literally the same week they restructure their advanced AI research unit and rebrand it as Meta Superintelligence Labs. They're embracing the very term these experts want banned. How do you reconcile that?
It perfectly encapsulates the paradox of this moment, doesn't it? You have some of the world's top minds screaming, "Stop existential risk," based on deep technical concerns.
Right.
And simultaneously, you have giant corporations effectively saying, "Full speed ahead." They're rebranding to explicitly signal their ambition to build superintelligence, presumably betting it's the key to future dominance. The caution from science is colliding head-on with intense corporate competition and, let's be frank, massive potential profits. That line between bold innovation and potentially catastrophic recklessness is incredibly fine right now.
So if we try to pull this whole week together,
Yeah.
what's the main thread? We saw billions lost because a timing chip failed in Virginia, highlighting just how fragile our core digital infrastructure is.
Yeah, brittle centralization.
And at the exact same time, the software running on that infrastructure got way smarter, way more autonomous. We got AI that remembers you personally, like Claude, AI that wants to browse and act for you like Atlas, and AI that could enable nationwide surveillance networks through partnerships like Ring and Flock.
That's the core tension, the key takeaway for you, I think. The fundamental issue weaving through all these stories is the immense concentration of power, whether it's concentrated infrastructure vulnerable to single points of failure, or concentrated AI capabilities coupled with a real lack of effective governance and oversight.
So the problems point towards needing
Right.
more distributed systems,
Yeah.
more transparency.
Exactly. Decentralization isn't just a buzzword anymore. It looks increasingly like a necessity for resilience, both in infrastructure and maybe even in AI control, and transparency, accountability in how these powerful AI systems are developed and deployed. That's moving from nice to have to absolutely critical.
Which leaves us with this final, really tough question, building on what the sources suggest. If we accept that tech now operates with these immediate global consequences, like a power sync error in one U.S. state affects businesses worldwide, or a surveillance deal impacts privacy across a nation, how do we actually enforce accountability, especially for something like ASI, where people are talking about global treaties, like for nuclear weapons?
Right. How do you enforce that?
When the technology itself is being invented, owned, and deployed at lightning speed by private companies, often operating across borders and driven by intense competition. That governance gap, trying to regulate planetary scale technology, mainly held in private hands. That seems like the challenge that will really shape whether we navigate this next era safely.
Tech Week in Review is hosted by Adam Carter and Eve Harrison. Music by Federico Luyo, Jamie Wright, and Alex Grohl. Sound mixing and editing by Nigel Dixon-File. Tech Week in Review is produced by CTF Initiative in conjunction with TechFyle. If you are interested in more news, reviews, and articles, visit techfile.com and follow us on social media. If you like the podcast, please subscribe. Thanks for your support. Keep following TF and TWR for the latest in tech changing your world.